Mystery Brothers. Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.
All right, what's up, guys? This is Mystery Bros. Episode 18 now. Wow, episode 18. We're gonna kind of go back to another murder mystery episode, kind of like the Zodiac Killer. That one was fun. I really enjoy the murder mystery stuff. That stuff's really, I don't know, it really interests me, like that kind of stuff. I'm into, true crime stuff. I like that kind of stuff. So, but there is an element of mystery in this one because we don't really know who did it, who done it. That's the mystery. Who did it? And we still don't know to this day, to be sure. Although I think I know. if you pay attention, if you read the story, if you kind of get into it, I think there's one very obvious suspect, but it just can't be proven, So we'll go over that. This happened back in the 80s, right? Back in
1980s.
1982 was the year that it happened. It happened in Chicago. So we'll kind of lay it out. I'll give it to you like a cool murder mystery story. We'll lay everything out. We'll go over the facts, what happened, and then we'll kind of get into and then we'll get into who it may have been and suspects, that kind of thing. Or how. I guess they never really figured out how it was done.
No, they went to a lot of detail where this was to get it in. So basically the story starts in Chicago. These all happen in kind of like suburbs of Chicago. I didn't write down the exact suburbs, so it's just Chicago, okay? We're just going to say Chicago because I didn't write down all the freaking... In the nice neighborhoods.
I don't know if they're nice or not, but in the suburbs of Chicago. It happened, like we said, 1982. Now, the first date is September 29th, and we're going to start with the morning of September 29th, okay? So we'll start with the most tragic, to be honest, because in my opinion, it's the most tragic because Mary Kellerman, she's 12 years old.
Yeah, a very young girl.
Yes, very young, very sad. But Mary Kellerman woke up. She had a sore throat, runny nose. She stayed home from school that day because she wasn't feeling great. Her dad was staying home with her, and she went into the bathroom. Her dad was kind of like, calling for her, like, how, Mary, wash up, this kind of stuff, and she wasn't responding.
Stop masturbating in the bathroom.
Yeah, she wasn't responding. We're past 5 minutes now, so we might be able to cuss, but I don't know if probably gonna have to edit a lot of what we did.
Dude, so. We have like 2 minutes of things.
Yeah, let's give it to another few minutes. But so she went to the bathroom and she wasn't responding. So he went over to the bathroom and she was passed out on the floor. She was collapsed. Basically, he called 911 immediately. Paramedics rushed to the scene. She was in full cardiac arrest when the paramedics got there, and they couldn't really revive her on the scene, so they rushed her to the hospital. And then she was later pronounced dead at 10 a.m. Now this one, since she was only 12 years old, was extremely puzzling. No one could, like full cardiac arrest. Why would a 12-year-old just have a cardiac arrest, like have a heart attack?
And there were no, like, they couldn't find this out before.
Yeah, there was no, like I said, she was 12, so she didn't have any like pre-existing conditions or anything like that. So why would a 12-year-old just go into cardiac arrest? That's strange, very strange. Yeah. So everyone was like, they didn't know what to make of that. So then a couple hours later, also a suburb of Chicago, September 29th, 1982, Adam Janis, who I didn't get his age, but he was in his 20s, late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around there. He was he was an adult. And lucky for him, that day was his anniversary.
How's that lucky? How's that lucky?
Because your anniversary is a very important, special day,
So it's the same day he dies. Is that what you're getting at? So what a lucky dude to die on his anniversary.
That's bad. We shouldn't be making fun of dead people. Anyway, that was his anniversary, but he also was not feeling great that day. And he wanted to go lie down. So he went to go lay down, and his daughter came over to him and realized that he was turning blue, which is weird. So like the daughter was like, "Mom, Dad, Dad's blue." I guess I'm sure that's exactly how that went. And then they called 911, and paramedics again rushed to the scene. They noticed he had a very low blood pressure, and his breathing was not very great. His breathing was labored. Again, they rushed him to the hospital because they could not get him revived on the scene, and he was also later pronounced dead. And their only explanation, their cause of death was thought to be just kind of like a spontaneous heart attack.
That was their thing.
That was what they thought at the time. Like they didn't, before the autopsy and everything.
We know, like in the time frame when all these happened.
So the Mary Kellerman was early. It was like 7 a.m. Adam Janis, I believe, was a little bit later, like around like 8:39. Like these are all happening within like a 3 or 4 hour period, pretty much. So, yeah, and people were baffled. Like the hospital people were like, "What's going on?" They didn't know. Like they said with Janis, they just said it was like a spontaneous heart attack. They couldn't really come up with any other reason. He also didn't have any underlying conditions or anything like that. But I guess, sometimes people just have heart attacks. So that's what they thought it was. But then a couple hours later, also September 29th, 1982, Mary Reiner, who I believe like a few weeks earlier had just given birth to her fourth baby. God, this is sad now that I'm rereading all this. Like, man, Mary Reiner. Again, I did not get her age, but I believe she was in her like 20s or 30s. Like I said, just had her fourth baby. So like probably
fourth baby.
Yeah. So probably late 20s, early 30s, somewhere around there.
She's been
doing work. And she also was not feeling well, of course. Her mom was in the house with her because, like I said, she just had her fourth baby. So her mom was there just kind of like looking after her and stuff like that. And according to her mom, out of nowhere, she gets violently nauseous.
Violently nauseous. So she's just like, ugh.
Yeah, just like feeling horrible. Now, I think being nauseous can have, like, when you just gave birth, like that kind of thing, like being nauseous isn't that crazy, but like her mom said it was violently nauseous and then immediately just collapse.
Ouch.
Bad, that's scary to think about, dude. Like if you, like seeing that.
You just see someone just collapse in front of you
randomly. Yeah, like out of nowhere, just like, I've passed out before, have you?
Like just randomly walking?
It happened to me once.
Where?
In my apartment.
You just like started walking here and just passed?
What happened was I was sleeping, right? And I woke up because I had to go to the bathroom really bad. And I stood up, and I think I stood up too quickly, like after sleeping. And I literally just like blacked out for a second, and I woke up and I was on the floor. Legit. It was scary.
Damn.
It was scary. But yeah, I think it was just because I was like sleeping, and then I stood up really quick to go to the bathroom, and my body wasn't ready for it.
I've like woken up in places that I don't know how I've gotten there. But
seriously, like you've sleepwalked before?
No, like where I was just like trashed all night and just
like that kind of like you got fucked up and then okay. Yeah,
that's about the worst extent.
I've actually never even had that, dude. Like I'm a big boy, so I can drink a lot. So I think that's the thing. Like,
If anybody can outdrink Evan, please comment in one of our YouTube videos. We'd like to have a contest.
once drank, I think 17 beers in like an hour and 15 minutes. That's pretty. That was pretty intense. That might have been one of the roughest. Still didn't black out though, and didn't even throw up. So, was doing a case.
Did you feel good, or did you just like, oh?
I mean, I was definitely fucked up. I mean, 17 beers in an hour and 15 minutes. Yeah, I was definitely messed up. But,
Dude, I couldn't drink. I would have had alcohol poisoning, dude.
Right? Yeah. If I wasn't such like a big dude, I think that could have been a problem. But anyway, she was rushed to the hospital and she's dead. No.
Now we've learned that she's dead and how big of an alcoholic Evan is. We can go into the next topic.
I feel like you're being way too like funny and joking about all these people dying.
Should I take it more serious?
Maybe we should stop joking around so much. But so she was rushed to the hospital as well. And upon arrival, she was also dead. They didn't I don't know if they ever said anything about this one with all the other ones. It says that they initially thought it was some sort of heart attack. With her, I didn't see anything like that. So maybe they just had no idea, or maybe just thought the same thing, thought it was a heart attack. Cause that's kind of what they were all looking like. You know what I mean? Just, and then, later that evening, also September 29th, 1982, Adam Janis, who was the guy who died earlier that day, his family was all getting together because of what had happened. Obviously, they all found out Adam was dead, and it was so sudden that that's rough. You know what I mean? That's tough. On
especially if you have no idea that someone's gonna die.
Yeah, just when they just die completely out of nowhere that.
Because when it's your grandparents, you kind of understand the time's coming.
When people die of natural death, there's usually some sort of there's usually it's coming, that kind of thing. But this dude was in his 30s, he had a family and stuff, and just dies. So people, the family was kind of just getting together to kind of mourn. And just think maybe that's got to be tough. And they all got together at Adam's house. Okay, so one of his other family members, who I think was his brother Stanley, while they're all at the house, he says he starts to feel ill, and then he grabs his chest and says, "My heart," and collapses.
Ouch!
Wow, dude. Very unlucky family that was that day, man. So he starts to foam at the mouth, which is never a good sign. Never a good sign. So he passes out, starts to foam at the mouth. They call paramedics again, and that's got to be rough. Paramedics are like, "What? We were just there." What do you mean? We were just there 5 hours earlier. We got to come back.
That's probably how they linked it to the first.
Well, it's his family member. Also, so, but yeah, I mean, paramedics were like, "Really? We got another one at your house?" And they're all just like, "Yeah."
Just out of nowhere?
Yeah. So the paramedics rush onto the scene. And same kind of problems, the breathing is really bad, really, really low blood pressure. They're trying to revive him there, and it's just not working out.
That's probably when they realize hey, these are two family members of the same house having the same issues when they had a perfectly healthy life.
Yeah. So the paramedics at one point. Let me finish the story though.
Yeah.
So the paramedics they just cannot figure out what is going on. And then while the paramedics are at the house, right, Stanley's wife, who was the guy who just passed out, collapses. Okay, with the exact same symptoms.
At this point, you think, could this be a dead virus that's just killing everybody?
Definitely, they definitely thought that. But just to finish that up, both of them died there on the scene, Stanley and his wife, within while the paramedics were even there, and that's when it got a little crazy there. Apparently, Nobody could figure out what was going on. At first, they were
Dude,
thinking,
if I was part of that family, I'd be freaking out.
That's scary,
I'd be
right?
like, dude, I just saw two of my. Am I next? Like
three of their family members are now dead.
Like, am I next? Like, that's what I'd be.
That's kind of what was going on. Like they thought, could it be carbon monoxide poisoning? But the thing is, there was, other family members in the same house, and they were all fine.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? That doesn't make sense. But they actually did. They quarantined the family. They got everyone in the family quarantined. They thought it might be some sort of like new virus.
Could you imagine just dropping people like flies?
Yeah, like 3 of your family members would just die within a 6-hour
I would
period.
definitely think that's the first thing I would think of as
Some
a virus.
sort of disease, right? Yeah, and so they actually did. They quarantined the family, and they just could not figure out what the hell was going on. It's weird. So then later on that day, 6:30 p.m., also September 29th, we have Mary McFarland. She's 31. I did get her age. I don't know why I couldn't get the other people's, but she was 31. She was at work. She worked in Chicago, and she was having a headache. So her coworker was just like, "Hey, go ahead, and we've got some Tylenol in the back room. Go ahead and take some Tylenol and just come on back in." So she goes outside, and according to coworkers, very quickly, like literally, she goes outside, she takes the Tylenol, comes back in. 3 minutes later, she collapses.
Damn.
All right. And they said that she was dead within 20 minutes. She collapsed. She took the Tylenol, came back, collapsed, and 20 minutes later, she was completely dead.
Dude, like paramedics all around Chicago must be like thinking, what is going? 6 random people just died today.
Yeah, they were freaking out. Although I don't know if it was all the same paramedics because these were all in like different suburbs.
I know, but like I highly doubt you get 6 random people die in a day, right? That probably never happened.
Just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Probably not. I don't know, but I don't know. It is Chicago.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about shootings here. We're just talking.
I see what you're saying.
We're just talking about like random people just dying.
Yeah. Yeah. It's strange. And when they're dying with like no reason or rhyme about it, that type of thing. Like, I'm sure way more than 6 people die in Chicago a day, but it's like,
oh yeah,
heart attack, like obvious heart attack. This dude's 400 pounds. He had a heart, that type of thing. Not like healthy people
random.
that are just dying, 12-year-olds that just die out of, that's not normal. So they started to kind of freak out. They didn't know what was going on. And when they quarantined, the whole Janus family from what was going on earlier, because 3 of them just died like within, 7 hours of each other. So what they did is they asked Adam's wife to try and like explain like what she could, like give a detailed description of what happened that day for Adam,
Right.
So they could try and figure out what was going on. And she mentioned that Stanley, who was Adam's brother, the one who died at the house later, he had frequent backaches. And so she mentioned that he had taken a couple of their Tylenols just minutes before he collapsed. And then she also mentioned that his wife did the same thing. She wasn't feeling well either. And that's what kind of made the connection. You know what I mean? She was like, when they asked her to really think about it, she was like, yeah, I guess they both took Tylenol like minutes before they both collapsed. And so the people, like the police, I think this was like police, and there was also medical. It was like she was talking to the police, and she was also talking to some of the nurses and doctors that were at the hospital, so they can both try and figure it out.
So I guess this is before they've done like a morgue examination.
Yeah, no, they hadn't done like autopsies or anything yet, because this is all just happening. You know what I mean? Like that usually takes like a day or so, that type of thing. And
would you be able to find that in an autopsy?
Only if they like did like a toxicology report. Like the thing is, I bet you they wouldn't in that 12-year-old girl, because why would they assume? Why? Because they have to be looking for drugs or something. You know what I mean? Like that's why they do that.
Evan, there's a lot of people that start drugs at 12.
Yeah, but I don't think that they would, like, knowing her family and stuff, like, she's not a crackhead. She's like a normal 12-year-old kid, so that they're probably just not going to be looking for that, you know? And that's like, they might not even figure it out for the other people too, because like I said, like that's usually something they do, like, if there's like a
Accident.
I mean, they might, because it was a mysterious death, so they might just do everything just to figure it out. But yeah, I know that's not like, it wouldn't be the first, it would be tougher to figure out. That's for sure. So once Mrs. Janice, Adam's wife, told them about that scenario and how they both took the Tylenol, the police went to their house and took the bottle of Tylenol to bring it back so they could get it tested. And then they also found the receipt in the trash can for the Tylenol, because it was literally bought that day. And then they also went to, after they figured this out, they went to the other people that had randomly died, like Mary Kellerman. They also took her bottle of Tylenol. And that is when, things started to accumulate. They started to figure out what could possibly be going on here. But they still had no idea, no idea truly what was happening. They just had they just had that connection with the Tylenol. Was the Tylenol bad? Was that type of thing? They didn't know what was really going on. But that's when they connected it to the Tylenol. So there was a nurse there. Her name was Helen Jensen. She was like the main nurse that was dealing with the Janice family and like when they were all, what was going on basically. And just looking at the bodies and thinking about what could it possibly be, she came up with the fact that it could be cyanide, just because the symptoms were all very similar to cyanide, and also like how fast it killed the victims. There's really apparently there's only like two different things, like two different kinds of poisons like known to man that can kill people that quickly. So because of how fast it killed the victims and the symptoms they saw, they figured this is probably cyanide. So when they told the toxicologists that, they gave them the pills, the pill bottles, and then they also, obviously, the bodies to look at, and it was confirmed that cyanide was in the pills that were in the bottles that they confiscated. Yeah.
That's freaky, because then you're like, oh, how many are out there?
Exactly.
Like, are we just going to get like a whole bunch of calls, people just randomly dying over the next couple of days?
Exactly. That's crazy. Like, who knows how many bottles could have this in it? You know what I mean? Like, what if this was like, they're thinking maybe like one of the manufacturing plants accidentally had some cyanide in it, and it could have made hundreds of thousands of pills.
Yeah.
And cyanide kills you so quick, like you're done. Like if you take it, you're just going to die. Like I don't think it's possible. I think if they get to you within the first 5 minutes, they can save you, but you're literally passed out after 3, It's rough. Obviously, after they figured that out, they held an immediate press conference.
Right, you have to.
Yeah, an immediate press conference. I think it might have been national, too, because they had no idea whether it was just in Chicago or not.
And Tylenol, actually, they took away 100 million. They recalled all their 100... They recalled all of their 100 million bottles. They recalled 100 million bottles.
Yeah, they did. But yeah, so they had the press conference where they warned everybody about the laced pills, and at that point, they couldn't, they didn't know anything more, so they didn't know if it was, like we were saying, if it was like a problem with the manufacturing plant, like they accidentally had cyanide in something, or if it was someone like at the store where they bought the pills that was doing it, like lacing them, or if someone had just, maybe snuck into their house, like the Janices, or snuck into the people's actual house and did it. They had no idea.
They had no idea. And did you know after this, seals were created? Before
Yeah.
that, there were no seals.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? Before 1982, there were no seals on any medicine bottles.
So you could just put in whatever you want.
Anyone could just open one and then do something and close it, and no one would ever know.
But which remind me, Evan, if you bought like a bottle of pills and there was no seal, would that be an automatic red flag, or would you just still like take it?
Yeah, no, you don't take that.
I don't know if I'd
just
be
take it back to
thinking-
the store, and they'll give you another one, probably, or maybe I don't know, but I just wouldn't take it. No,
You wouldn't take it?
No.
You think it would come into your head, or you just be like,
yeah, you notice, like if the seal's broken, it's obvious. There's no seal there.
yeah, obviously, but I'm saying,
Yeah.
would you care?
Yeah, that's why it's there. That's the reason, so you don't get fucking murdered. Well, yeah. Before that, there was no seals on any medicine bottles. Isn't that weird? It just seems like we should have known that before.
Well, like we told you in the 1970s, there was no security on planes. Like you could
Yeah.
just bring whatever you wanted.
Yeah, none at all. DB Cooper just
Yeah.
walked right on with like guns and shit.
Well, we learned from that, so it's all a learning process. Like we have to fuck up, and then we
I
learn from
guess.
that.
Nobody thought that someone might try and like tamper with pills or anything. Nobody thought about that, I guess.
Well, no
Maybe
one.
not.
I guess did somebody think that like when someone takes a gun on the plane that they'll like hold people hostage?
Yeah.
Guess not, because they did.
These things should be common sense, people. Come on, people shouldn't have to get murdered before we figure out this kind of stuff. But yeah, that is strange. I thought that was weird too when they were talking about that in the documentary. Like there was just no seals or anything on pill bottles, so that was pretty fucking convenient for someone. And then obviously they urged everyone to not take Tylenol, and like you said,
all the pills are recalled.
yeah, I saw 31 million bottles. You said there was more than that?
Oh yeah, that could have been the right 31, like $100 million worth of bottles. Was,
Oh, okay, $100 million worth. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 31 million was what I saw. 31 million bottles were recalled, and they tested 1.5 million bottles to see if they could find any more cyanide.
They said they found 6 bottles.
Yeah, they found 3 more that hadn't been bought yet
On shelves, which
that
is
had cyanide in them.
which is chilling.
Right. But before we get to that, so now we're moving on to the next morning. All right, September 30th. Paula Prince, who was a flight attendant. I believe she was in her early 20s. She was found dead in her bedroom when she missed work the next day. And her cause of death was also found to be cyanide poisoning. And they found her bottle of Tylenol next to her bed. And they also saw the receipt. She'd bought it on the 29th that morning. So now we're up to 7. 7 people dead from this. One thing I thought was funny, not funny, but one thing that was weird, like police were literally like driving down the streets with their sirens on and yelling through the megaphone to people that not to take Tylenol. Like they were driving through people like neighborhoods and stuff and just like yelling through the thing, like, don't take your Tylenol. Everyone throw out your Tylenol immediately. Like, don't give it to anybody, but all that kind of stuff. And then all the ambulances, right?
Yeah.
All the ambulances, they were equipped with like cyanide antidote, you know. Like I said, I think you have to get to them literally within the first like 5 minutes to even be able to save them, but you know, might as well have it. Police set up a hotline for any info for anyone to call for anyone who may have any information on how this could have happened. Apparently,
Oh yeah. Apparently they got a ton of calls.
Oh yeah.
Not very many of them were like actually legit, but like anyone was just calling like my cousin may have done, that kind of stuff. And most of it was bullshit.
And a lot of people were calling poison control because they weren't worried. Like, hey, I have like this stomach ache.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I took Tylenol. Like, you might have to come here now.
Yeah. And also like people were like, maybe it could be like maybe someone put it in aspirin. Maybe, you know what I mean? Maybe what if it's not only Tylenol? So
Yeah. They're like, hey, I took an
out.
aspirin. Like, now I don't feel right.
Yeah. People were freaking out. And basically, the company is the parent company of Tylenol is Johnson and Johnson. The police were kind of looking into any like possible disgruntled employees who had worked there or like any of that thing.
But I think what I found interesting was that I think when they looked at two of the bottles that it was found in, they came from different manufacturers. So that's what really like puzzled them.
So yeah. Like basically, once they found that, so they had 10 bottles total that they knew were poisoned, right? And between these 10 bottles, they came from 2 different lots.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what made them think like, okay, so it probably didn't happen during manufacturing, right?
Right.
Because that doesn't make sense. Why would it happen?
Yeah,
Why would it come from two different
Unless it's just someone just like...
Yeah, one of them was in Texas and one was in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So those are so far apart, like, that basically like kind of ruled out that it was someone at the manufacturing plant.
What if Advil did it? What if they're like, we want more people to buy Advil? Like, let's get Tylenol out of here.
Yeah, Tylenol's taking all our business. We need to fucking yeah, that'd be crazy. But yeah, and like we said, it came from 2 different manufacturing spots, and those shipments never came in contact with each other at any point. So that kind of ruled out it being something at the manufacturing plant. So at that point, the focus turned towards the stores where they were bought and what could have happened there. Unfortunately, this is back in the 80s. So they didn't have like security cameras in like all these stores or anything. They didn't have any footage, anything like that. So like the focus turned towards the stores where they were bought from.
Yeah, someone had to like probably just come in the stores and
someone
replace them.
Someone had to either come into the store and take the bottles and tamper with them and then bring them back or something like that. They couldn't really figure out 100% what happened, but they like knew it wasn't something with the manufacturing. So they kind of moved on to it was either someone at the store or like an individual person, something like that. And it kind of just like, they couldn't really get anywhere for a few days. They didn't know what was going on. And then on October 5th, okay, so only like, 6-7 days later, an extortion letter was found, and it was addressed to Johnson & Johnson. And they basically said that they would continue doing the killings until Johnson & Johnson wired $1 million into their bank account.
Yeah.
And they gave their bank account. In my opinion, that's stupid to give out your bank account because that kind of directs that like links.
But that's the thing. It wasn't his bank account.
It wasn't to an individual person. I know. So basically, he told him to wire $1 million into the bank account. He also said in there that like it cost him less than $50 to do all this. So it's not a big deal. Like he can do it again, basically is what he was saying. Like I'll keep doing this. And he said it was very easy to conceal the cyanide in the Tylenol capsules. Yeah. So the bank account was traced to Lakeside Travel, which is a company in Chicago. And when the FBI showed up, they showed up to Lakeside Travel and was like, what's going on? This bank account is someone who works here. And it wasn't an individual account. It was an account for Lakeside Travel. so they couldn't like pin it on an exact person, but they went to Lakeside Travel and they're like, what's going on? This account is linked to you guys and all this. And they showed them the letter. And one of the employees who worked there saw the letter and they recognized the handwriting on the letter, which is weird, in my opinion. But anyway, yeah, they recognized the handwriting on the letter, and they said that it was the husband of a woman who worked there or used to work there. She was, they said it was Robert Richardson, who that wasn't even his real name, by the way. Once the FBI got a warrant and they told the public they were looking for Robert Richardson, the next day, Kansas City police call in and they say the man in the picture that they think is Robert Richardson is actually a dude named James Lewis, who in Kansas City, this guy was arrested for murder back in 1978.
Oh, wow.
But he couldn't be convicted because according to all the prosecutors and all that stuff, he basically like got off on a technicality. Like they messed up some sort of evidence or something, so and he got off.
Yeah.
But like it was obvious that he did it, and it was a fucked up murder. Like apparently like he like killed this old man and then like dismembered his body and stuff, like in his own attic. Like messed up shit. And yeah, so then the police were like, oh shit, like we got to find this fucking guy, you know? He's crazy. And so they were looking for him. No one knew where he was though. He wasn't in Chicago anymore, or they didn't think he was in Chicago. He obviously wasn't in Kansas City anymore. And they believed he was in New York, but they didn't know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So they couldn't. They couldn't find him for about 3 months. But eventually they did find him and they arrested him. He was found in New York. He says he denies that he did any of this. He says he was in New York the whole time that this was happening, and there's no evidence. There wasn't really any evidence linking him to the murders. But he admits that he wrote that extortion letter, and he's charged with extortion.
Yeah, because they thought he explained it like the owner there owed his wife $511, so he's trying to expose that and try and make him look bad.
Yeah, because his wife
was a grudge.
His wife was the one who worked at Lakeside Travel, right?
Right.
And one thing that's strange to me. How would they recognize his handwriting like that? Like, he didn't even work there. He was the husband of the woman who worked there. How would they ever see his handwriting?
Maybe he wrote like love poems, and she just
maybe
put them up on her wall. Like, look, my husband's poems.
I mean, other than something silly and ridiculous like that, I don't get it. Like, how did they just like know? Like, oh yeah, that's Sheila's husband's handwriting. I know that for sure.
Maybe when they wrote company Christmas cards, he was the one who wrote them.
Maybe, I don't know, but like that just always struck me as weird. Like maybe back in the 80s, people did that more. I don't know. They didn't have cell phones, so maybe they write each other letters more. I don't fucking know. You couldn't just shoot a text real quick.
No.
But anyway, that's how they figured it out. But like I said, he did admit that he wrote the extortion letter, and he's charged with extortion, and he was convicted and sentenced to 10 years. Which is a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But I guess, extortion's no joke. That's a big deal.
Yeah, that is crazy. I would never want to just send the police a note.
Yeah. Well, no, not police. It doesn't, like...
Oh, yeah, not to, like, ask for money. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, extortion is kind of crazy. I wonder if the fact that he was asking for so much money or what it was that got him 10 years. It seems like a long time.
Well, you just can't just ask a company to like wire you money.
Yeah, I know. I wonder if they could have actually proven that he wrote the letter. You know what I mean? Like if all they had was one of the employees of Lakeside saying like that is his handwriting, could they have really proven that? But they say he admitted to it.
It just says that they had found some they couldn't use it in court, but they found like some DNA evidence on his, and I guess we have some evidence
Kind of
against
threatened them with that.
Yeah,
I gotcha. Dude was crazy. Dude was fucked up. Like the murder that he did in Kansas City was crazy.
right. And like, why would you just want to kill random people? It had to be like an effed up person.
They even had like fingerprint evidence that he murdered that dude in Kansas City, and somehow he still got off.
Damn.
I think there must have been like a really like some sort of technicality, maybe how they got the fingerprint, maybe I don't know, but like, yeah, it was basically like pretty obvious that he murdered the dude in Kansas City, but he somehow got off with it. And I think they may have took that into consideration when they sentenced him to 10 years for extortion for that.
Right.
I read that he was also like, while he was in jail, he was like, he wanted to like make himself look innocent. He wanted to make it seem like he cared and wanted to help. So he like drew all these like crazy like diagrams and like plans of like how someone could have done that. That just seems kind of weird.
It
like,
seems. Apparently,
why do you know so much?
Yeah.
Why would you, how would you know how to do all this shit? Like, were you doing it? But yeah, they could never really get any evidence that it was him.
That could tie. They couldn't get. The thing is, they had trouble tying him down in Chicago at that exact time.
Yes,
because they had to know someone had to come into the stores and had to like replace the bottles or put them in.
Yeah,
and that's not a hard time. Because like remember, video cameras weren't really there yet.
Yeah, there was no like surveillance cameras in every like convenience store type of thing, and CVS's and Walgreens. And all
now
that.
it would be a lot harder to do something like that.
Now there's cameras in every single store. You're on camera every time you go into one of those stores.
Got to wear a mask, which we all do now, anyways.
They could still point you out even with a mask on.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know. There's a lot of people.
Yeah, there'd be enough hair, like hat, clothing, that type of thing. Like they'd be able to figure out it was you. But yeah, back then there wasn't any of that, so they couldn't really get the hard evidence.
That's what you need, but it's definitely crazy and definitely scary.
Yeah. Now there were all kinds of suspects. One of the suspects, which I thought was kind of interesting. Ted Kaczynski, who was the Unabomber.
Oh, really?
He was a big suspect in this because he was living in that area at the time. And I think that he had talked about that at some point. But again, they just didn't really have any evidence linking him. What would they even be able to do? Like maybe take fingerprints off the Tylenol bottles? But I'm sure that you would wash those before you put them back, or at least rub them down. To do, so it's like, what kind of evidence could you even find? I don't know.
Some people said it was like Roger Arnold.
Roger Arnold was another suspect because he was drinking at a bar one night, and I guess he was just drunk, and he was kind of a weird guy, and he told stories about killing people with cyanide.
Yeah. And people thought that was a little strange.
People thought that was weird. So the bar owner called the police, and Arnold was arrested. And they found like a bunch of like chemicals and beakers, funnels, some mysterious powder in his house.
And they said, although they did find the powder not to be
the powder was like potassium something.
But it's still strange.
He would never admit what he was using that for.
And he refused to take a lie detector test.
Ah, okay. I didn't even know that. Yeah. He was kind of fishy. Like they, having all the funnels and stuff, like when they had James Lewis kind of like draw all these diagrams and try and explain like how this could be done to try and help the police, you know, you would like open the capsules and you need like little funnels and stuff to be able to put the cyanide in and then close it back up. So like this guy, Arnold, like he had all that stuff, you know, which is weird. And then, you know, he did tell stories about killing people with cyanide in the bars. But anyway, he was questioned for 3 days, but again, couldn't really get any evidence.
They couldn't force him to take a lie detector test. Like they couldn't, they didn't have enough evidence to make him
and lie detector tests you can't use those in court anyway. I know, but it still doesn't look good if you fail that.
And they refuse.
And if you pass it, then they'll probably leave you alone.
Apparently, he shot someone too afterwards.
Yes. So he was released after a few days because they couldn't, you know, they couldn't figure out, or they couldn't get any actual evidence to pin on him. But since he was known as a suspect and everybody knew it, he said that it like fucking like it like ruined his life. Like people were just like called him names and stuff. Like I guess like people at his work called him like Tylenol boy and stuff like that. Like it was, I don't know, apparently like he was having a rough time. So 8 months later.
I wouldn't call him Tylenol boy because like, dude.
What if he did it? And he's gonna fucking kill you.
What if he's like, dude, I had enough of you, man. Like I'm just going to put something in your morning coffee, dude.
Right? You wouldn't even know, dude. Cyanide is crazy. So 8 months later, he went to the bar where he remembered telling those stories, and he shot who he thought was the owner of the bar at the time, but it turned out to just be some other dude that like looked like the owner. And he was sentenced to 30 years in jail.
Obviously, you get sentenced for that kind of bullshit.
Yeah, dude. He just went in and fucking... and it wasn't even the right guy.
Did he die?
Yeah. He felt bad about it. Like, he talked about it in jail. He was like, I shot just an innocent guy. Like, I had nothing to do with it. Damn.
Well, it's your fault just talking about, like,
talking about killing people with cyanide.
That's exactly what the kind of bar conversation I would start at a fucking bar. You think that it gets you laid, boy? Like, just talking about, like, cyanide capsules to people? Total bar talk right there.
Yeah, I mean... You know, it is kind of like... I feel like writing the extortion letter definitely is not a good look at all, but like this Roger Arnold dude definitely could have done it. Like, what if James Lewis was just like apparently trying to take advantage and write an extortion letter, but he didn't actually do it, you know?
There were a lot of copycats after who tried to do like tried to sneak in after trying to do the same things, but they always got
trying
caught.
To tamper with pills and stuff, but they got caught because of the seals, right?
Yeah.
I could imagine. But yeah, so that's kind of where the story ends because we never figure out who actually did it. But yeah, I don't know. It's between James Lewis and this Roger Arnold guy. Both have some pretty strange things. Like they couldn't, like, according to like a few witnesses and stuff, James was in New York, right? So it's kind of like, did he do it? I don't know. He definitely wrote the letter, which is a bad idea. It's stupid. I don't know why you thought that, like, just because the guy owed his wife $500, so they was trying to like pin it on him. Why wouldn't you type the letter, you dumbass? Why would you write out a handwritten letter if you're gonna like try and do like a serious extortion letter?
And it's stupid.
Type it. You know?
Well, Evan, when you write your extortion letter, you make sure you type that shit up.
Definitely. I'm going to be typing it all day. No one will be able to read my handwriting anyway. I can barely read my handwriting.
It's just like, what does this guy want? Was that say shoot you or like?
A few times during this podcast, I couldn't even read my own handwriting, so I don't think that a handwritten extortion letter from me would work out very well. But yeah, why wouldn't you type it? I mean, I guess back then you'd have to get like a typewriter. But still, like, I'm sure you could figure that out if you're going to be writing.
Well, maybe you thought like maybe you could like trace like from what typewriter.
I don't think so. I don't think that was the thing. I don't think you could figure out that. but you just wouldn't have handwriting where apparently the coworker of your wife who works there just immediately recognized your fucking handwriting. So I don't know. It's weird.
Well, he could have maybe they know his handwriting because he's written like so many times to the boss, like, "Hey, are you gonna fucking pay my wife $500? You fucking douchebag."
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot that goes into how they knew that was his handwriting. I don't know. I'm looking some stuff up, and I'm not really finding much. So they also suspected him of writing a letter to like the president that was about the Tylenol murders in October. Also, because he wrote the extortion letter on October 5th, they say that there was another letter that was like sent to the president, kind of talking about it.
They probably like when you like I don't know how many letters the president gets a year, but there's probably like a whole team. They probably one person just opened that up and like, all right, this is bullshit,
dude, I bet,
and he just threw it away.
I bet the president gets a lot of letters, especially now, especially Trump. But like,
dude, I'm sure like Trump doesn't even get informed half the letters he gets.
No.
Like, what's this letter say?
I would love to see some crazy letters that Trump gets, dude. Like, I'm from both sides, from like dudes that are just like super supportive of him,
like Trump, you're doing the right thing to
those
like
kind of letters, versus like probably like death threats daily on like yeah.
Oh, I don't know about death threats, dude. Sending death.
Yeah, I'm sure he gets plenty of those. But they're fucking typed out, so no one knows who they come from because they're not fucking idiots. You know? No, but yeah, I'm sure he gets some death threats. Come on. You know?
Someone wants to kill our sacred president, Trump.
I don't understand why. I mean, he's our savior, Lord and Savior.
He's the son of Jesus, right? Let's not get political on the show.
Yeah. Those are obviously jokes, people. We are not. We don't really support Trump. It says in 1982, he tried. Oh, never mind. No, the case was in 1982, but he tried to get like parole because he did the time. He did 10 years in jail for that extortion. They wouldn't let him get parole at all.
Damn.
Yeah, none at all. I think that was one of those like OJ situations where it's like,
yeah, we know you
did it, but we couldn't get you for that, so we're gonna get you hard on this type of thing. You know what I mean? I think it might have been one of those situations. Like, we know that you murdered the dude in Kansas City. We know that you most likely did these Tylenol murders, but we can't pin that on you. But we can pin this on you, so we're gonna give you 10 years, no parole, nothing. Like the maximum sentence you can get for that, pretty much, I bet.
Yeah.
You know, who do you think it was, if you had to guess? Do you think it was this James Lewis guy, or do you think it was Arnold?
I don't know. I can't confirm that's him. Like, I have a suspicion that it could be him, but I can't confirm that that's...
Nobody can, but I'm saying, like...
So you're like more... I would give it like 60% that's him.
That it was James?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm kind of 50-50 between James and that Arnold dude. That's like, normal people don't just talk about killing people with cyanide at the bar
and refusing to take a lie detector test.
And then so many other things. Wouldn't take a lie detector test. Found a ton of weird like equipment that he would use to do that.
But like, you know, that could have just been his passion or something.
Maybe, but like,
maybe he was just fascinated by it.
But yeah, so it's a crazy mystery. You know, no one really knows who did it. Like I said, I think I'm more 50-50 between those two guys. I can't really choose one. I think it had to be one of those two guys.
You sure? Maybe just one person.
Maybe somebody else. Dude,
that like no one could talk about. But it just makes me think that. Do you think like it was like they had like a certain person in mind to get this, or do you think when they like placed these bottles like in the store, like it was just meant for anybody? You think the killer had like someone in mind?
It had to be random.
Yeah, that's what I think too. Like, there's no way it could have been placed for someone. I think it just had the store and just like someone just wanted to kill someone. If it was meant
for someone, I feel like they would have snuck into their house and like done it that way, you know. But they just did it to 10 random bottles on the shelf in stores. There's no way they could pinpoint that. So yeah, it was just a fucked up dude who wanted to kill some people, you know. Cyanide sucks, man. cyanide basically just cuts off oxygen. Like your body uses blood cells to transfer oxygen to all your organs. And when cyanide gets in your system, it basically blocks all of your cells from being able to take in oxygen. So you literally just like die so quickly. Messed up, dude. Messed up. But yeah, I mean, it's a mystery. No one knows who did it. Could never really pin it on anyone. 7 people are dead, unfortunately, including a 12-year-old girl. Terrible. So it's rough, but like, you know.
At the end of the day, I think the lesson is take Advil.
We learned a very valuable lesson, which is we need to fucking put seals on our medicine bottles. Like, no one thought of that bright idea before then. So,
we're just like a learning culture, you know. It has to happen to us once, and then we learn.
I guess so. So, but yeah, so that's the Tylenol murders. It's a crazy story. It happened back in the 80s. It's true. We just can't figure out who did it, who done it. Yeah, man, it's a crazy story. But I think that we got some time here. We could throw in a little quickie.
Yeah.
Allan Hills 84001.
What a sexy name.
And you know, it's an interesting thing to talk about. It's still kind of debated over today. You know, the findings and what they believe based off of the findings here. It's still kind of debated, but it's an interesting thing to talk about. So,
correct, because like Clinton actually came out and said in a speech that he thought we found life.
Yeah, which is interesting. That caused a huge controversy over it.
Yeah, so Allan Hills was an asteroid.
Meteor.
It was a meteor that crashed in Antarctica a long time ago.
So scientists believe that it's 4 billion years old, which is insane. One of like the oldest meteors that we've ever like encountered, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
They believe that it crashed on Earth about 13,000 years ago.
Wow.
That's what they believe.
So that means... So what they found was pretty much from like when Mars still had water and looked a lot more like Earth. They
believe so. I don't know if Mars ever looked like Earth, but
well, they said like way back then again they had water.
Yeah, it may have had water back in the day,
and it looked like Earth more than it does now.
Okay, but it never looked like Earth. It just had some water on it.
They said they had water on it, so they said there could have been habitable forms of life.
But it's very, very different from Earth.
Yes.
It might have had water, sure, but yeah, I mean, 4 billion years. That's, you know,
that's like in the early days of Mars. Is what they're saying.
Yeah, like the early stages of Mars being a planet, forming even. So,
yeah. So
the Earth was pretty new back then too.
Yeah, apparently it's only 5 billion years old.
Yeah. So I mean, both the planets were pretty young, and they believe that like an asteroid like crashed into Mars and dislodged this, right?
I mean, that's how it had to happen. Otherwise, there was just like a spaceship who took it and like flung it towards Earth.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, that's what they believe. They believe that there was some sort of meteor asteroid that hit Mars, and the impact caused this little meteor to fly off of Mars and hit Earth.
Well, there are a lot more craters on Mars since it doesn't have as dense as that atmosphere.
Yeah. And like, so they found this in Allan Hills, Antarctica, right?
Right, yeah, back in 1984, it was a group of scientists.
Yeah, it was a group of American scientists that were actually searching for meteors. Antarctica has got to be a cool place to go for that kind of stuff, because like, it's basically untouched. Like, nobody lives there. There's no one there. So if a meteor landed 13,000 years ago, you can find it still. You know what I mean? Which is crazy.
If an alien spaceship crashed 13,000 years ago, we can find it.
Maybe. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy shit about Antarctica, dude. There's all kinds of crazy fucking conspiracies about Antarctica. But I'm just saying it's got to be an interesting place because it's so uninhabitable that no one lives there, no one's been there,
Right.
no one fucks anything over there, like no one messes with shit there. Well, no, this is a second hit part, so
So like, what made it interesting was in like August 6, 1996, a team of researchers, NASA scientists, published an article claiming that the meteorite may contain traces of life on Mars, which really sparked the debate.
yes. Now there's a type of it's like not that the meteor had current life on it, but they say that it had these magnetite particles.
Well, they said they made like small little tunnels that like the meteorite had little tunnels that that resembles microscopic life.
Yes,
forming
yes.
these tunnels.
There were certain magnetite particles they found on the meteor, and these magnetite particles are not known or expected to be produced by anything other than life.
Right.
By any non-biological processes, these are produced. But, the debate is still there. There's a lot of scientists came out and said, no, there are possible ways for this, blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know if there's any sort of way they can just test for I don't know.
Yeah, it's just strange because when they originally made the finding, they like came back. Like I think they made like a scientific review. So what they did, they like under a scanning electron microscope, they saw structures that were visible to scientists that like interpreted fossils of bacteria like life forms. It said that like this was smaller than any cellular life known at the time of their discovery. That's why it's up the air, because like we don't have cellular life known at that
small.
That small, yeah. So like if the structures had been fossilized life forms as it was proposed, it was called the so-called biogenic hypothesis. They would have been the first solid evidence of extraterrestrial life that we have discovered.
Yeah, the first
yes,
proof.
However, it was like people also argued that like these traces, like you have to remember this asteroid or like this meteor landed on Earth 13,000 years ago, so it could have easily been contaminated.
Yep. But being in Antarctica, a lot less, not very much lives in Antarctica as far as like animals and stuff, really.
But that's the argument right now, is that kind of what it was debunked, is that they say that it's most likely it was contaminated.
Yeah, because, maybe 13,000 years ago, Antarctica looked a little different, maybe. I don't know.
Right. I mean, if you think about it, it'd just be cool, no matter how big or small life form. If we found something that didn't originate from this planet.
Yeah.
No matter how small it is. Even if we just found like a little small flower on Mars, like.
Yeah, I mean, like, they think it's 4 billion years old. So imagine if there was like just little tiny cellular life back then, a billion years later, it could have evolved into like intelligent life.
Right.
And then could have had a huge civilization and then been wiped out before humans even come into the picture.
Right.
It's
crazy to think about.
Yeah.
And all sorts of things. Like, there's also like a theory that we came from Mars. Like, life originally from Mars, and a meteor hit Earth, and Earth became the new hotspot.
Yeah, I know the fact that we are some sort of alien.
Yeah.
But I don't know what there really is to back that theory up as far as coming from Mars. I don't think there's really anything.
No, we'd have to like come to Mars and see like our DNA evidence.
Yeah,
like,
what? Someone just decided that would be cool, maybe? Because otherwise, I don't think there's really any proof or anything they can point to that says we're from Mars.
No. But that's interesting. I guess it's just that the fact that it can't be proven that it was not in like a space vacuum when it was found, like that it already hit Earth, and it could easily be contaminated. We have a lot of life forms on this planet.
Do we now have knowledge of life forms that are that small?
No.
So maybe there's.
No. Right now. Oh, at the time. We have knowledge of that. That's why it's been more disproven. But at the time when it was found in 1996,
I see.
There was no knowledge of that small of a life form.
I see. So that made people think this had to come from some other planet. But now we know there are life forms that small. I wonder, like, do they find life forms like that in that area? But again, like we said, Antarctica could have been way different 13,000 years ago. So it's a crazy debate.
Yeah. So, like, it definitely does look like there was some microscopic life in that meteor, but if it actually came from Mars or Earth is like hotly debated because it wasn't just found in like a vacuum. It was found on a living planet.
Yeah. And it was found in 1984. They think it was it landed here about 13,000 years ago. So there's a lot of time for that to be contaminated. But yeah, it's cool.
Like life that didn't originate from this planet is always interesting.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
I definitely think the most potential for life in our solar system is Europa, or like there's a moon in Enceladus in
what planet is that one on?
It's a moon on Saturn's ring.
Okay, part of Saturn.
And then have you heard of Titan?
Yeah.
There's also Titan. But apparently
that's one of Jupiter's moons, right?
Right, yeah. No, it's actually also one of Saturn's.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Europa's Jupiter's.
Europa's the Jupiter one. Okay.
They say they have lakes just like on Earth, but it's like liquid nitrogen, not water.
Yeah, in Europa, they think there's a huge sheet of ice like covering the whole planet.
Right, and it's like just water underneath that.
And they think there could possibly be water underneath.
And the whole planet is just like an underwater thing. And they think it could be warm because there could be like thermal. They think there's like thermal like coming from like the
ground. What kind of creatures would live on that, man? Would
you want to be on a submarine exploring it?
I don't know.
Could you imagine just seeing like a huge jaw open up and just like,
oh, dude, I mean, that'd be crazy. Have you seen Interstellar?
Yes.
Or when they go there, don't they go to Europa? Or they go to a planet that's supposed to be kind of like Europa.
Yeah,
they're supposed to go, huge waves.
They're different. They're different galaxies.
Yeah. Oh, they're in different galaxies in that movie?
Time was warped.
Yeah.
And that's why like the short time took a long time. But listen.
Oh, yeah, because they went through like a wormhole or something, right? Yeah.
Cool
movie.
Cool movie. Definitely.
I didn't fully understand it completely the first time I watched it. I had to watch it a few more times before I fully understood what was going on, especially at the end. Spoiler alert. When he's in that other like dimension and he's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. That was an interesting movie.
Dude, any movie with McConaughey is definitely an interesting movie.
He's got some good ones.
Yeah.
But so I just don't understand how we can't. There is no test to prove whether that's traces of life or not. There's no way to prove that, I guess.
No.
Interesting.
They're just saying that, like, for the most part, we still don't know if it actually doesn't confirm that it was Earth bacteria that went through. But they're saying there is now evidence that there are such small organisms on this planet that could have done that.
They kind of like there's been a lot of debate about it. Like they kind of put together like a group of scientists to like disprove the thing. You know what I mean? And it's like sometimes when you're trying to do something, you can, like if you read their reasons, like, well, it could have been formed, but it could just be like separations in the rock or something like that. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, it looks like traces of life. Like, you know what I mean? So it's annoying when they have people that are trying to find something before they even start looking. You know what I mean? That's what I don't like. It says here we have over 61,000 pieces of rock confirmed to be of extraterrestrial origin. So it doesn't necessarily mean from Mars, but we have 61,000 meteors that we've found on Earth that did not form on Earth, basically. So there's some sort of meteor.
Wow. Pretty cool.
And no other any of them have this on it, you know?
It is interesting.
Maybe some do, but they just, it was obvious that it was contaminated on Earth or something, you know? But it's just crazy that we have 61,000 meteors that we've collected and no other one has ever had any evidence like this before.
No, I think it's unique because they one of the earliest ones that they found from Mars, and at a time when they said Mars had water potentially.
You mean one of the oldest?
Yeah,
the rock itself. You mean?
Yeah, one of the oldest rocks.
Yeah,
that's why it's so
4 billion years.
They're trying to say that back then Mars might have had water. There's evidence to suggest that Mars had water at the time, so that's why it's interesting. That's why they thought that could have life.
Anyway, yeah, those are some interesting stuff. The Tylenol murders are really cool. Well, they are cool, but like, it's really interesting to think about that, and it's really like it's kind of crazy and creepy. Like, yeah, like someone thought to do that. You know, that's why we have seals on everything now. So I'm not really that worried about it.
Could you imagine if it was like like not just Chicago, but like a mass thing, just like putting everybody's like in everybody's Tylenol.
Like if there was way more bottles. Like if it was like that would have been insane. But that would have to have been something like while it was manufactured.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just
so
it's
Advil
crazy.
Could not have been behind it.
Yeah, it's crazy to think. It's crazy to think. But so yeah, that's a little interesting story there. And then Allan Hill's 84001 is pretty cool.
Could have been the first evidence of extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, man. It could be, you know, but I guess there's no way to tell for sure, as always on Mystery Bros. Next episode, we're gonna be talking about the Fermi paradox.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
We're gonna start to look at it and decide think about what if we're alone in the universe.
We're going to look at it from all sides. The Fermi paradox is just kind of...
That's like the Fermi paradox, though. Like, what if
it's something about...
Yeah. Why haven't we found alien life?
Yeah, it's about alien life and how rare or common or how, you know, that kind of stuff. So...
Stay tuned.
Yeah, so we're going to go into that. Of course, we're talking about aliens again. Always. Love aliens. They're coming soon. Aliens, they're coming here soon. They've been coming, but they're gonna they're gonna make contact soon.
I mean, 2020. Like, I don't know what else to expect. Like, dude, if we get an alien contact this year, like, damn, dude.
How awesome would that be?
It kind of redeemed 2020. If it was nice. I don't know. If it was nice. If it was like, hey, we're gonna take your stuff. You can either surrender to us and be little bitches, or you can die.
It would definitely make 2020 the most eventful year of all time, pretty much.
Yeah.
If we have alien contact as well. But so
I think that's the second part. We're gonna look into what the UFO, what the Pentagon has released since the coronavirus
we'll talk about
started.
Because the Pentagon is coming out with a lot of information there. Well, the thing is, they haven't released anything yet. They're saying with every 6 months or so, we're gonna start releasing our briefings from this unidentified aerial vehicle task force that they have that has been secret for a long time, but now they're just going to say, well, we're just going to make it public now. And I guess they got some information, man. I mean,
I still think it's going to be heavily monitored what comes out.
Yeah, I mean, the Navy pilot stuff is interesting. I mean, if you're interested in UFOs, though, you already knew about that. You've already seen that footage, and I'm sure you already believed it. So that's not crazy new evidence, but apparently they have some new, not evidence, but new videos, new stuff. And apparently some scientists, in a document somewhere that I read a quote where he said, we've found vehicles, or we've seen vehicles that we know aren't from Earth.
Very interesting. It's very interesting.
So that's fucking crazy. Stay tuned for that. Thank you guys for listening, and peace out.
Mystery Brothers. Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.
Mystery Brothers.
Mystery Bros.